Welcome to The Explainer. It's really fantastic to have you here with us. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating piece of wisdom that tackles an incredibly frustrating yet completely universal struggle. It's that feeling of having massive, world-changing goals, but literally lacking the drive to actually begin. We've all been there, right? You've got the vision, the burning desire, the ambition, but when it's time to take that very first step, you just feel, well, kind of lazy. Well, as we dive into today's source material, we're going to explore exactly how the ancient samurai dealt with this specific paradox. So let's jump right in and see how you can finally bridge that massive gap between wanting and doing. Now, you might be wondering about something that sounds completely counterintuitive. Are your grandest ambitions actually making you weaker? We're constantly told to dream big, right? To set our sights on the stars. But what if those giant dreams are secretly acting as a really comfortable trap? What if instead of pushing you forward, your grandest ambitions are actively preventing you from making any real progress? As our source material reveals, heavily identifying as a dreamer can actually create a massive gap between what you deeply desire and what you're actually willing to do on a random Tuesday morning. To really understand how this happens, we need to look back at a pretty powerful story. Section 1, the trap of dreaming. Picture this. Once upon a time, there was this young samurai named Yuki, and he dreamed of becoming the absolute greatest warrior in the land. He'd spend hours talking passionately about his plans, reading these epic stories of famous battles, and just vividly imagining himself mastering countless weapons, learning the most advanced strategies, and earning unparalleled honor. It sounds great, right? But when it actually came time to train, Yuki's reality looked wildly different from those grand dreams. He was always finding excuses to avoid the actual hard work. He'd tell himself, well, the weather isn't quite right today, or I'm feeling a little under the weather, or I just need to plan my routine a bit more carefully before officially starting. And you know what happened? As the years passed by, his dreams kept getting larger, but his actual skills remained entirely stagnant. Younger, much less ambitious warriors who simply put their heads down and trained every single day quickly surpassed him. His grand, spoken plans literally led to his ultimate downfall, leaving him frustrated, totally unprepared, and full of regret. And here's the truly dangerous psychological insight our source reveals about this. The more Yuki talked about his plans without taking action, the more his mind actually rewarded him, as if he had already achieved something. It's wild, but your brain finds deep chemical comfort in imagining a successful future, and it uses that warm, fuzzy feeling to replace the need to endure the actual physical discomfort of hard work. Basically, identifying as a dreamer gives you this false sense of accomplishment. Dreams without action quietly waste your time, and as the samurai well knew, time once lost can absolutely never be reclaimed. So his dreams literally became his trap. Which brings us right to a core misconception that completely derailed Yuki. Section 2, the illusion of motivation. We all do this, right? We tell ourselves that endlessly preparing and planning is somehow progress. But the source bluntly defines this specific kind of preparation as disguised procrastination. It creates this totally fake illusion of progress while actively pushing us further away from the actual work that matters. When you sit around waiting for motivation to strike before you begin, you are essentially handing over control of your entire future to fleeting emotions. You're letting a temporary mood dictate your long-term success. Just talking without doing leaves us completely unchanged. The source uses a really brilliant travel analogy to cement this point. It says, waiting for motivation before beginning is exactly like waiting for perfect weather before starting a long journey. Think about it. If you wait for that absolutely perfect sunny day, you might literally be waiting forever. Meanwhile, the people who are willing to just walk in the rain, taking action in completely imperfect conditions, are going to reach their destination miles ahead of you. The gap between wanting something and doing it simply cannot be bridged by motivation alone. You've got to be willing to walk in the rain. So, how do we actually fix this? Let's get into the practical solution in Section 3, Musashi and the Kaizen way. We're going to leave the tragic story of Yuki behind for a second and bring in a triumphant historical counterweight, the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. Centuries ago, Musashi completely grasped the exact truth that Yuki totally missed. Unlike the people who try to overhaul and transform their entire lives in a single dramatic movie montage moment, Musashi devoted himself to the principle of Kaizen no Mi, that is, the way of small improvements. Musashi understood that true greatness isn't built in these sudden massive bursts of energy. It's built through the quiet, humble, and often boring rhythm of daily repetition. The samurai taught that you climb a mountain one single step at a time. You don't do it by just staring at the peak and wishing you could instantly teleport to the top. To put this into perspective, the source asks us to imagine a samurai student who feels far too lazy to do a full training session, but he forces himself to practice just a single tiny sword form every single morning. Now, his friends might absolutely laugh at this, calling it completely useless, but because he actually sticks with it, those tiny results compound over time. The movement becomes automatic, his body naturally grows stronger, his technique gets sharper, and his core discipline deepens. Months down the line, he's built this incredibly unstoppable foundation that lets him learn advanced skills with total ease. All while those friends who are waiting around for some magical burst of motivation, they're still stuck at square one. The absolute smallest step carries so much more power than the grandest plan. And this leads us to a massive reframing of how we even understand what drive is. Section 4, action creates the spark. Okay, so the crucial secret to actually generating inspiration lies in this very specific sequence. Step 1, you take a small action, even and especially when you do not want to. Step 2, that action starts building momentum. Step 3, that momentum naturally gives rise to this rush of energy, which we almost always mistake for inspiration. The truth from the source is crystal clear here. Motivation is not the spark that creates action. It's the flame that follows it. The people who achieve the absolute most in life aren't the ones who magically wake up feeling inspired every single day. They're the ones who just act, even when they really, really don't feel like it. I want you to let this really profound piece of wisdom from the great samurai teacher Yagyu Munenori sink in for a second. The sword that waits for perfect conditions never leaves its sheath. Man, that's powerful. If you wait for the right moment, you're going to be waiting forever. The samurai didn't train just when they felt ready. They trained because training was literally their way of life. Readiness, it's an absolute illusion. As we wrap up this explainer, let's bring these ancient principles right into our modern lives with Section 5, commitments over fleeting feelings. Our whole modern obsession with needing to feel motivated usually just stems from fear. It's the fear of starting something when we're feeling tired, or the fear that our efforts aren't going to immediately pay off. But true discipline isn't about somehow avoiding those tired or uninspired feelings. It is about moving right through them. Like the ancient warrior said, I am not controlled by my feelings, I am guided by my commitments. True strength isn't having the ability to act when the conditions are absolutely perfect. Real strength is looking at a task and saying, I'm going to do this whether I feel like it or not. You've got to place your trust in your daily habits and your commitments, not in your temporary fleeting moods. Which leaves us with this final lingering thought for you today. The power to act without waiting for motivation is literally the power to shape your entire life. So I've got to challenge you. Are you going to keep acting like Yuki, just kind of trapped in the comfy illusion of your own dreams, endlessly waiting for the stars to perfectly align? Or are you going to bypass your emotions, take one tiny step, and draw your sword today? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks exactly the momentum you need to get started.